Elden Ring Nightreign can be a beast, a behemoth, and a juggernaut, sometimes all of those all at once. But I'm Alex, this is Boomstick Gaming, and I've got you. Here's a few ways to be more effective, stronger, and increase your chances of not death in Nightreign. One of the most important things to know before you even step a single toe into a match can be found in the visual codex in Roundtable Hold, or you can just select it from the map screen. This reveals the exact stat scaling for your character, which is vital to know before you head out and start amassing equipment. A thing I see some brand new players miss is the fact that your character gains the bonus properties of each piece of gear you have right here. It's not just what you have currently equipped into your hands like the base game of Elden Ring. So all of these bonus effects are active from even the weapons I'm not using, which means you should be considering the bonus effect that each loot drop provides, at least early on. Even a huge sword for a spellcaster or a cute little staff for a warrior could have an effect on it that makes you overall better. However, some items will have this red hand symbol on them, and this means it'll need to be actually in one of your active hands to trigger its effect. Like if I throw the Sacred Seal into my offhand and then two-hand my katana, the offhand now gives me completely free glint blades that come back automatically over time, instead of that Sacred Seal just sitting in my inventory doing nothing. You might have one of these on you right now, maybe not right now, but you could be missing out on some bonus effects. This one provides HP restoration from attacking if it's in one of your hands. It's not a weapon that's good for my character though, so I'm going to put that in my offhand, and now my faster main-handed weapon attacks provide health back on hit. Back in the visual codex, you can look up here at every weapon in the game and see the exact stat scaling for each one. Cross-reference these weapon scaling stats with your character's primary stat scaling, and you'll be dealing higher damage if you seek out that type of gear during a run. If you want to quickly and simply know which weapon in your inventory is doing the most damage, you can pop over to the status screen, and this shows what is dealing the highest damage according to your stats. For the stat scaling, I actually made myself these little character cheat sheets that I figured I might as well share with you guys if you want to screenshot these to your phone to use as a reference during a match, like what I did. I used these early on to have a rough idea of some of the weapons to look out for when I'm actually out there sifting through loot. You can also further boost your damage output by equipping relics that increase your primary stats, like Pumpin' Strength for Wilder. Okay, now, day one, here's what I recommend you do at the very start. My favorite location to drop to at the start, which also happens to usually have the easiest enemy layouts, are these forts. Hit the overview button and you can see that they have a small map symbol above them that we're going to grab. If you're nowhere near a fort when you drop, the Great Church locations, this symbol, are also a generally easy place to hit early. Before entering any main location marked on your map though, you'll need to circle the area near a site of grace and farm enemies in this area to level up as quickly as possible. Leveling up your character is going to by far help you more than any piece of gear you have equipped or amount of health flasks you have acquired. When you have enough runes to level up, an arrow will show up in the top left next to your character level. Get to at least level 3 if you're new. Experienced players maybe just level 2, then head to your first main location like the fort. Now, depending on the fort's layout, you might need to enter from the basement if you're running around wondering why all the gates are locked. These forts have a lot of chests of loot, but depending on the enemy layout, some chests will appear in different locations. Taking down the boss here will give you some gear and upgrades to choose from. Most anytime you take down a boss, know that these conveniently poop out a site of grace nearby, so you can use that to level up and restock your health flask before moving on. You can often find a Stone's Word key here too, which can later be used at these locations for optional boss fights. Before leaving the fort though, make sure to check the top level to find the map, which will reveal the exact locations of scarabs and hidden gear containers. These marked chests on your map tend to usually have above average drops, so they're worth heading towards. And scarabs will drop a talisman to further enhance your build. If you're real lucky, finding the gold scarab talisman towards the beginning of a run gives you an advantage in the late game thanks to its extra rune gain. Now, like I mentioned before, if you don't drop near a fort, the Great Church locations are also fairly easy, with some chests full of loot. If you can't find the boss, it might actually be underneath the church. After that, use the pressure plate to open the nearby gate to get out of there. Now, a few tips before we head to that first circle boss. You don't have to fully come to a stop to use a site of grace and level up. If you just quickly press interact and then confirm, multiple confirms if you have multiple levels up, you can utilize these without slowing down. But don't be totally scared of the enclosing circle. There's tons of things you can do while outside of it with the health degen. If you check the map and plan a careful route where you can chain from sites of grace or churches outside of the circle, either of those can be used to refill your health and flask as your health gets drained. So you can maybe run back out to level up before you start the boss, get a scarab that's still out there, or snag an extra healing flask from a church that's nearby. If you're fairly new to the game or Elden Ring in general, I recommend keeping a lookout for items that list defeating enemies restores HP. This can stack if you have multiples. Just having that bonus anywhere in your inventory will give you back health by taking down enemies. This can help save you charges of your healing flask for when you really need it. The effect, successive attacks negate damage, could also help. This provides a damage mitigation bubble around your character after you hit with a few attacks. Easy way to reduce some of the incoming damage you take. If you come across the Wraith calling bell, this can be a very strong item to use throughout day 1. This bell can be reused over and over, and it costs FP to cast, but its homing projectiles are very strong. If you find yourself near this canal that runs through the center of the map, there's these bushes here you can sniff to increase your rune acquisition rate. Keep an eyelid open for silver and gold fowl feet. Pop the silver ones before opening chests for better chances with items, and pop the gold ones before you take down a boss to increase the runes you acquire. By the way, if no one else needs an item on the ground, you can quick use without picking it up by holding the top face button plus D-pad up. So triangle D-pad up on PlayStation, Y D-pad up on Xbox, or keyboard the default is H. If you're struggling with early game fights, you might not be using enough item buffs, or items in general. They're everywhere, don't worry about saving them the entire run, use them. Okay, now it's time for the first circle boss, and if you played your cards right, didn't waste too much time, it takes some practice, you can get to around character level 6, 7, maybe 8 and up if you play real fast before the start of day 2. Another beginner mistake though when fighting end of area bosses is to be using your surge sprint on left stick in or alt on keyboard too often during the fight. Your faster surge sprint drains a huge amount of stamina, so you often get close up to the boss and find that you have no stamina left to do anything else. Get in the habit of using your slower standard dash for these fights to have some actual stamina to use when you get up to them. However, the surge sprint can be used tactically to avoid certain attacks thanks to its raw speed boost. Take down the boss of day 1 and you'll get a nice collection of upgrades or weapons to pick from. Before we get into day 2, here's something I notice that happens often. I see some teams at the very beginning of a run wanting to immediately run like 3 minutes all the way across the map just to get one church for the 1 extra healing flask. But that's a good way to be under-leveled though if you're wasting too much time crossing the map early in day 1. It's very easy to hit all the church locations on day 2 though, since the map re-expands to the edges so you can go anywhere. You'll be much stronger in day 2, which makes it so you can take down field bosses along the route to get those churches for the extra healing flasks. Now, if you only have a white or blue weapon still at this point starting day 2, here's a few steps to easily upgrade what you have. If you head to any tunnel entrance, these locations have a chance to drop level 1 and level 2 smithing stones. If you take down a boss in here, in their loot rewards, they'll always have an option to get a level 2 smithing stone, which you can take to a merchant and use their anvil to rank up a weapon from blue to purple. However, most of the weapons you get from loot drops, though, you'll need to be a certain level to use. It's level 3 for blues, level 7 for purples, and level 10 for orange legendaries. Another option to get a level 2 smithing stone is from a township, if you happen to get one to populate on your map, indicated with this icon. The merchant in the township sells level 1 and level 2 smithing stones, talismans, and even has an expanded shop of gear you can directly buy if you have enough runes. Merchants tend to sell things that are catered to exploiting the weakness of the final boss that awaits you at the end of the run, keep that in mind. Some other extra credit you can do in day 2 is to head to the central castle, where there's some non-boss barred enemies that'll actually drop some loot containers for you. If you enter from the basement, this path underneath the castle will lead to a unique chest that drops a dormant power. That's the same thing that normally drops from bosses. You could also see if you happen to get this special vendor to populate on your map, which will offer you a deal with various options to upgrade your character. If you accept one of these, an additional boss will spawn in the final circle of day 1 or day 2, depending on when you made the deal. This can actually be a good thing though, since you're netting a huge chunk of runes if you survive both of those fights. Or if you're around level 8 and above, you can seek out the marked bosses on the map, like this dragon. These great enemies have a high chance of yielding rare equipment. Now to the final circle of day 2 and its boss. You're going to be ideally around level 9 and up at this point. After beating the boss and getting your upgrade, you'll need to then become one with the jelly goop to head to the final area. But something you can do before jelly mode is to gain a few bonus runes before you enter. You can take down nearby enemies that are just outside of the circle by simply sniping them, or throwing an item or spell. Also, if there's a nearby site of grace, you can actually sprint out, use that to heal, and pull enemies back to the circle to farm extra runes. In this case, those additional runes made it so I could level up 2 extra times before the final boss instead of just once. This area is the last option you'll have to level up your character, rank up your weapons if you have a smithing stone on you, or buy stuff with your leftover runes. Now it's time for the end of run boss, which I'm not going to show any of them, so instead I'm going to wrap this up with a few additional tips. Yeah. You can cycle among nearby items by holding the top face button and pressing D-pad left or right, or T and Y on keyboard. Hold the top face button and click the right stick in, or X on keyboard, to mark a location right where you're standing, or to indicate gear to other players. If you see a teammate that's a guardian, that's Bird Bro. If they activate their ultimate and hold the input when slamming downward, this area of effect around them is being made for you to go in and push the attack, since everyone in the area will be invulnerable. This ultimate, along with the Revenants, can be used to instantly pick up incapacitated players. The Revenants also gives teammates a buff indicated by a glow on your character that prevents death at 1 HP. Look at the cool effect of how this modifies her face when it's active. If you see a raider placing their totem, this provides an attack up buff for allies that are near it. So use that to your advantage to squeeze in some extra damage or use your ultimate when you're near it. Once you take down the first final boss, you can set matchmaking to queue for more than one boss by selecting all, random among ones you haven't defeated, or you can individually mark bosses on the left to matchmake for any of them. When you find one of these towers with a magically sealed gate that says "Find Crest," these are often hidden nearby in a fake object that you'll need to hit to reveal the crest. Once you break the crest, the door will open and you'll need to jump up these platforms above the large crystal in the middle to reach the top. Up here you'll find a dormant power with some upgrades or weapons to pick. And finally, as you progress, the journal back in Roundtable Hold will expand with more pages. Make sure to check in here for if a character has the option to begin Remembrance. These are optional side quests for the character that'll lead to an additional objective you'll need to go out and complete during a run, indicated by the orange flag symbol somewhere on the map. Doing that bonus quest will also give you a big payout of runes. Turning in these Remembrance Quests and Roundtable Hold will unlock special unique relics for that specific character. Like this one for Wilder, gives a huge bonus to his grappling hook ability. Now it can chain into a follow-up attack that also temporarily imbues his sword with fire damage. You could entirely miss the Remembrance mechanic for hours, so don't. Check the journal every time it's updated. Okay, now Nightreign by design cannot be fully figured out, but doing some or all of these things I mentioned will guaranteed increase your chances of not dead. I have some additional deeper details you'll also want to know coming in my next video, so consider sticking around on the channel. But make sure let me know what you guys think of Nightreign, and what's your most comical epic failure so far. Me, I have the footage of the first time I found out there are red barrels all over this roof. Also, if you have any direct questions about Nightreign, you can hit me up down in the comments here or other places at BoomstickAlex. Alright, thanks for watching Boomstick Gaming today. Good luck, and I'll see you soon in the next one. Wait, I just got it. Nightreign. Oh, okay.